So day one of the action integration section for confidence. This is one of the biggest ones that people ask about, and I think one of the most elusive, because so many of the other modules are going to have very concrete things that you go out and you do in your interactions with other people that are going to get the desired effect. Confidence, obviously, is a very internal game. So a lot of people are confused as to where to start because, honestly, there's not a lot of good material out there on that. Thankfully, for my own life and for you by proxy, I haven't come across some fantastic stuff that I want to share with you this week. Now, it's going to be in two parts, basically, and this sort of matches what we talked about in the Inner Game and Confidence module. There's two pieces to confidence. There's that in the moment, like how do I go from feeling, a little bit quiet, a little bit down, to just in a couple seconds or a minute, great. And there is that long spanning confidence. Honestly, it's closer to self-esteem. That feeling of being worthwhile, that feeling of high well-being, of just like having a sense that you are good and worthy of the good things in this world. And that is something that I would say there's even less information out there about how to improve and increase. Now, that's why we're going to start there. There's going to be a mix over the course of this week of, in the moment stuff, but something that I'm going to keep running in the background is this self-esteem stuff, and I want to touch on what that is today. But first, I want to tell you that I was actually just reviewing my notes in preparation for this, and I want to share with you that this is something that I actually did and participated in. I found a document from 2012 that is 19 pages long that has the first times that I ever did this exercise that I'm going to share with you. And I can tell you, my confidence is in another level than it was in 2012, particularly when I go back and look at the things that had me nervous, that had me unsure, the way I was feeling. This is completely a different experience for me, and it is very much based on the exercise that I'm going to share with you. So do it, right? This is so obvious. We're in the action section, but you have to do this stuff. So the exercise is one that I got from Nathaniel Branden, and he is a guy, he has written so much on self-esteem, and if you ever read any of his work, there's 6 pillars of self-esteem. He's got a book about that, but one of the best ways to build it up that he shares are these things called sentence completion. And he lists a lot of them, but I've gone through and selected the ones that have been most powerful for me. I was just looking at this document that I have and seeing where the best answers came from, right? So today I want to start with sentence completion around this idea of living consciously. But first, let's talk about what sentence completion is. Sentence completion is this idea that you're given the front half of a sentence. For example, the first one that you're going to get today is living consciously means to me, ... And the idea is that as fast as you can, I prefer like on a keyboard, or well, I guess you don't have a typewriter, but on your computer or laptop in a Word document to just type, because I can type faster than I can write. The entire idea is to go as fast as you can and write between 6 and 10 answers to this question. Now, no filter, right? Whatever comes out, the entire goal is just to keep your hands moving the whole time. If it's gobbledygook nonsense, all the better. That's how fast you want to be going. So you're not filtering, oh, I already said that before. It's totally fine if there's duplicates. It's totally fine if you look at it and go, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Everything gets dumped onto the page. Speed is critical here because oftentimes we hide things from ourselves. And it's only when you get into this flow of like blah, 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 many things to say, boom, that you drop a truth bomb on yourself and you realize something that has been holding you back that you weren't even really conscious of. So speed is critical here. And the idea is I'm going to give you 5 of these per day. 5 stems. You'll go through, write 6 to 10 answers, right? Second halves to these sentences, if you will. And that's it. So I can tell you the first question, living consciously, or the first stem, living consciously means to me. Just to talk about that word a little bit in case you're a bit confused. When I first went through and started answering this question, I had a lot of answers that had to do with being more honest, right? So living consciously means to me being honest with myself about my feelings, not hiding from myself the fact that I don't like the job, caring more about others rather than being so self-absorbed, not going through life on autopilot, but actually engaging and being present, right? These are the types of things that I came up. So that's not what you need to write, but that's just a starting point, right? This is what that sort of consciousness area is talking about. And then for you, the goal is going to be to write what it means to you, and you can apply that to specific situations in your own life. Answer this any way you want, right? The idea is that's a powerful sentence stem, and your answers are going to be most revealing. So every day this week, we're going to have a new set of 5. Talk about what to do with this at the end of the week, but for this week, Just go through and right now do this. This is the tiny action. You have to do this right now. Don't set a time for later. It should take 5, maybe 10 minutes max. Honestly, if you're writing fast, I don't even think it'll take that because it's just 5 sentence stems. 6 to 10 each, as fast as you can. I'm going to give you the questions just below this, starting with living consciously means to me. Now, the last thing that I'll say, and I'm sorry to harp on this point, this seems like such an insignificant thing, right? What is a sentence completion going to do with the way that you feel in front of your boss? And I can tell you from my own experience, what flows from this and the actions that you will take and the realizations that you will have about the way that you've been being and the way that you would like to be, they fuel massive amounts of change. It is this stuff that made me, in no small part, leave my job, start a company, right? Travel the world. It made me end relationships and start new ones, right? I actually one day went out and I'd written, living consciously, or I forget what the stem was, but when I see a pretty girl on the street, striking up conversation. And I did this right before lunch and then went to lunch, saw a pretty girl, had this fresh on my mind, started a conversation, and then saw her for the rest of the time that I lived in New York City and still talk to her, and she's a great person. So like, cool things come into your life from doing this. Do not think this starts and ends with what you write down. That's all. I want to keep this as tight as can. The first day is always longest. There'll be more of these sentence completion as we go on. And tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to turn that confidence on in the moment. But this is baseline, right? This is self-esteem, which is why it's so important to begin with.